ending injury, and who knows, it could be even worse than that. But if everything goes well, he could be back on the ice inside 8 weeks. We'll keep our fingers crossed for Michael Tasker. Elsewhere in Coventry, Neil Martin. Now, this really was a strange one. Neil Martin went down in the game against Edinburgh last weekend and was hurt, was taken to hospital and was kept in hospital for a couple of hours undergoing a series of checks. At one point, it was suspected that he'd ruptured a kidney, but thankfully, well, from the Coventry Blazers' point, and obviously thankfully from Neil Martin's point of view, there was no coughing up of blood, there was no passing of blood, and despite there being a couple of other worries about possibly injured ribs and possibly even lung issues, the good news is that Neil Martin appears to be well on the mend, and as of this afternoon when we recorded this Phoenix news, there is a 50-50 chance that Neil Martin could play again this weekend, when last weekend he was looking at being out for some considerable time with what was then an unknown injury. Sheffield Steelers, well, they're our visitors on Sunday in the BMI Baby Elite League. They expect to be at full strength when they come across the Pennines on Sunday to the Altrincham Ice Dome. That is, of course, unless something untoward goes on in their Saturday night game when they play the Cardiff Devils in Sheffield. That game is being hyped up as a big grudge match between Jeremy Cornish and Brad Voth, the respective enforcers on both sides. So we'll just have to see if those two go for a dance on Saturday night, and who knows, maybe there'll be injuries, maybe there'll even be suspensions. We'll just have to wait and see whether the Steelers are at full strength on Sunday when they're due to come to Altrincham to play the Phoenix. As we said, Phoenix go to Dundalk on Saturday. They fly out early Saturday morning into Belfast and then drive south in the afternoon. Phoenix expect to be at full strength. There's a couple of the players have been nursing a couple of knocks this week, but they do expect to be at full strength going into Saturday's game against the Giants. Now, something not hockey related, but something that you've seen at hockey. A few weeks ago, we had synchronised skaters in the Altrincham Ice Dome. We had something like, if I remember rightly, it was about 35, 36 synchronised skaters came on, gave a little display. They did it for the experience. It was entertaining. Some people laughed a little bit too loudly because they were obviously nervous. But the good news is they've asked to come back. The synchronised skating team are actually preparing for a competition which is going to be staged in Deeside in a few weeks' time. And they contacted the club this week and said, could they come back and run 2 more displays on the weekend of November 10 and 11 when we're at home on the Saturday and the Sunday against the Cardiff Devils and the Basingstoke Bison. It's a slightly more experienced team of synchro skaters than last time, but they need to rehearse and prepare in front of an audience. Where better to do it at the Dome, and who better to do it in front of than an audience of Manchester Phoenix ice hockey fans. So on Saturday the 10th, Sunday the 11th, get down there and give a good cheer for the synchro skaters, who will then use that experience, hopefully, to help them in their competition in Deeside in a few weeks. And we've got something else lined up for the weekend of the 10th and 11th, but we're going to bring you news on that next week, if you don't mind. We're just dotting some I's and crossing a couple of T's, but hopefully there'll be something very special for the weekend of November 10 and 11, as we said, when we play Cardiff and Basingstoke, both games in the Altrincham Ice Dome. Well, that's about it for this week's wrap-up on Phoenix TV News. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we hope to see you here again next week when we'll bring you news from within the club, around the league, and who knows, there might be more on synchronised skaters. You never know your luck. Thanks for joining us.